I had an 820 credit score and $347 in my bank account. I felt proud of that number. Meanwhile, my friend with a 640 score had $89,000 saved up. Guess which one of us was actually winning? Here's what nobody tells you about credit scores. My name is Brad, and I love to stare at spreadsheets so you don't have to. And today, I'm going to tell you something that's going to make credit card companies very mad at me. Your credit score doesn't measure how good you are with money. It measures how good you are at borrowing money. And there's a massive difference. Look, I used to obsess over my credit score. I checked it every week. I had alerts set up. When it hit 820, I screenshot it and showed my friends. I was so proud. I felt like I had won at adulting. I had cracked the system. But here's the thing. While I was busy optimizing my credit score, I was broke. Not homeless broke, but paycheck-to-paycheck broke. One emergency away from disaster broke. I had a perfect credit score and an empty savings account, and I'm not alone. According to a study by Credit Karma, the average person with a credit score above 800 has about $8,400 in savings. Know what the median net worth is for that same group? About $76,000. That sounds good until you realize that includes their home equity. Take out the house, and most of these people with perfect credit scores have almost nothing. Meanwhile, there are millionaires out there with credit scores in the 600s. Some don't even have credit scores at all because they don't borrow money. They pay cash for everything, and somehow they're doing just fine. This is where things get interesting. A credit score isn't measuring your wealth. It's not measuring your financial stability. It's not even measuring how smart you are with money. It's measuring one thing and one thing only. How profitable are you to lenders? Think about it. What makes your credit score go up? Using credit cards, taking out loans, borrowing money and paying it back with interest. What makes your score go down? Not using credit, paying off all your debt, closing accounts. The system rewards you for being in debt and punishes you for avoiding debt. How does that make sense if the goal is financial health? Let me tell you about the dumbest thing I ever did, chasing credit card points. There was this card offering 100,000 bonus points if you spent $5,000 in the first 3 months. That's enough points for a free round-trip flight to Europe. Amazing deal, right? So, I got the card, but I didn't naturally spend $5,000 in 3 months. My normal spending was maybe $2,000. So you know what I did? I manufactured spending. I bought gift cards, I prepaid bills, I bought stuff I didn't need just to hit that minimum spend. I got my 100,000 points, I got my free flight, I felt like a genius. But when I actually looked at what I spent, I had bought about $1,400 worth of stuff I wouldn't have bought otherwise, just to get a flight that would have cost $800 if I had just paid for it. I spent $1,400 to save $800. But I felt smart, because I got free points. This is the game. And I was losing while thinking I was winning. Here's what most people don't realize. The credit score system was created by FICO in 1989. Before that, people got loans based on their relationship with their local bank. The banker knew you, knew your job, knew if you were responsible. It was personal. But banks wanted to expand. They wanted to lend to millions of people they'd never meet. So they needed a system, a number that would tell them, can we profit from this person? That's what a credit score is. It's a profitability score for banks. It's not measuring if you're wealthy. It's measuring if you're a good customer for the lending industry. Let me break down what actually affects your credit score. This is going to make you mad. Payment history is 35% of your score. Okay, that makes sense. Paying bills on time is good. But here's the catch. You only build payment history if you have debt. If you pay cash for everything, you don't get points for this. You're penalized for not borrowing. Credit utilization is 30% of your score. This is how much of your available credit you're using. The sweet spot is supposedly under 30%. But think about what that means. To have great utilization, you need to have credit cards that you're not using very much. You're being rewarded for having access to debt that you're not using. That's not financial skill. That's just having available credit. Length of credit history is 15%. The longer you've had credit, the better. But again, this only matters if you're borrowing. If you never borrow, this doesn't help you. Credit mix is 10%. This means having different types of credit. Credit cards, car loans, mortgages, the system literally rewards you for having multiple forms of debt. How is that a measure of financial health? New credit is 10%. Opening new accounts hurts your score temporarily. But if you never open accounts because you don't need to borrow, that doesn't help you either. Add it all up, and what do you get? A system that rewards people who are constantly borrowing and punishes people who avoid debt. It's backwards. Now let me show you the real difference between focusing on credit score versus focusing on net worth. Because this is where the math gets really clear. Person A has an 820 credit score. They have 3 credit cards with a total limit of $45,000. They use them strategically, paying them off every month to maintain perfect utilization. They have a car loan with a $420 monthly payment. They have $8,000 in savings. Their total net worth, after you account for the car loan and the value of their paid-off car, is about $22,000. Person B has a 680 credit score. They had some late payments in college, and they closed a bunch of credit cards when they decided to stop using them. They have one credit card they barely use, but they have $75,000 in investment accounts. They own their car outright, paid cash for it, no loans at all. Their net worth is $94,000. Who's better with money? The person with the perfect credit score and $22,000 net worth, or the person with the mediocre credit score and $94,000 net worth? The answer is obvious. But we've been trained to think the credit score matters more. We've been trained to think that 820 is impressive and 680 is something to be ashamed of. Here's another example that really shows how crazy this is. I know a guy who inherited $500,000 when his dad passed away. He paid off his house, his car, everything. He put the rest in investments. He had zero debt and $500,000 in assets. His credit score dropped. Why? Because he closed all his credit cards when he paid them off. He had no debt, so he had no payment history. His utilization went to zero, but not in a good way because he had no available credit. His credit mix disappeared. He went from a 780 score to a 640 score, and he didn't care at all. Because he had $500,000, he didn't need to borrow money. The credit score was irrelevant, but according to the system, he got worse at managing money when he became debt-free. How does that make sense? Now you might be thinking, okay, Brad, but don't you need a good credit score to get a mortgage? And yeah, you do. If you want to borrow money for a house, you need a decent credit score, usually 620 minimum, but ideally above 700 for the best rates. But here's the thing. You don't need an 820. You don't need perfect credit. A 740 gets you the same mortgage rate as an 820. After 740, there's literally no benefit. You're chasing a number that doesn't help you. And more importantly, if you've been saving money instead of chasing credit score points, you might have enough for a big down payment, or even enough to buy a house with cash. And if you can pay cash, your credit score doesn't matter at all. Let me tell you about the actual cost of maintaining a perfect credit score. Because there is a cost. It's not free. To keep your credit score high, you need to keep accounts open, even if there are annual fees. I was paying $450 a year for a credit card I barely used just because closing it would hurt my score. That's $450 a year for nothing. You need to use your cards regularly. So you're spending on credit when you could just use cash or debit. And every time you use credit, even if you pay it off, there's a psychological effect. Studies show people spend about 18% more when using credit cards versus cash. Even if you pay it off every month, you're still spending more. You need to monitor your score constantly. I was paying $20 a month for a credit monitoring service. That's $240 a year. For what? To see a number that doesn't actually measure my wealth? And here's the biggest cost. The mental energy, the time spent optimizing, the stress when the score drops 5 points, the constant checking and worrying and planning. I spent hundreds of hours managing my credit score. Time I could have spent learning about investing, or building a side income, or literally anything else that would actually build wealth. Let me tell you the moment everything changed for me. I was at dinner with a friend who's a financial advisor. I was bragging about my 820 credit score. I was showing him my credit card strategy, my utilization ratios, my points optimization system, and he just looked at me and said, "What's your net worth?" I didn't know. I had never calculated it. I knew my credit score to the exact point, but I had no idea what I was actually worth. So I went home and did the math. Assets minus liabilities. What I owned minus what I owed. And the number was depressing. After 5 years of working a good job, my net worth was $18,000, and most of that was my car. I had spent 5 years optimizing the wrong number. I had been chasing a score that measures how profitable I am to banks instead of measuring how wealthy I actually am. That's when I realized credit score is a game designed by lenders to keep you borrowing. Net worth is the actual measure of financial success, and I had been playing the wrong game. So I changed my approach completely. I stopped checking my credit score. I stopped chasing points. I stopped trying to optimize my utilization ratio. I focused on one number, net worth. I canceled the credit cards with annual fees. My score dropped 40 points. I didn't care. I saved $450 a year. I started using my debit card for most purchases. My credit utilization went to zero, not because I had high limits, but because I stopped using credit. My score dropped another 20 points. I still didn't care. I was spending less money overall. I took all the time I used to spend on credit score optimization and put it into learning about investing. I took all the annual fees I used to pay and invested them. I took the extra money I wasn't spending because I switched to debit and invested that too. After 2 years of focusing on net worth instead of credit score, here's where I ended up. My credit score was 758, down from 820. But my net worth was $87,000, up from $18,000. I had tripled my wealth while my credit score dropped, and that 758 was still high enough to get the best rates on anything I needed. Not that I needed to borrow money anymore, because I had actual money. Here's what you need to understand. The credit score system is not designed to help you. It's designed to help lenders. It measures how profitable you are as a customer, not how wealthy you are as a person. Rich people don't obsess over credit scores. They obsess over net worth, assets minus liabilities, what you own minus what you owe. That's the only number that actually matters. You know what's better than an 820 credit score? Having $100,000 in the bank. You know what's better than perfect credit utilization? Having no debt to utilize. You know what's better than credit card points? Actual money you didn't spend on stuff you don't need. So here's what you should actually do. Stop checking your credit score every week. Once a year is plenty. Make sure it's above 700. After that, stop caring. Focus on increasing your net worth instead. Calculate your net worth right now. Add up everything you own that has value. Your savings, your investments, your car, whatever. Then subtract everything you owe. Credit cards, loans, all of it. That's your starting point. That's the number that actually matters. Set a goal to increase your net worth by a specific amount every year. Maybe it's $10,000, maybe it's $25,000, whatever makes sense for your income. Then focus all your energy on hitting that goal. Save more, invest more, pay off a debt, increase your income. Do whatever it takes to grow that number. And here's what's going to happen. Your credit score might go down, especially if you pay off debt and close accounts, and you're not going to care because you'll be watching your net worth go up. You'll be watching your actual wealth grow, and that feels way better than watching a credit score tick up 5 points. If you need to borrow money for something important, like a house, then yes, maintain a decent credit score. Keep it above 700. But you don't need 820. You don't need perfect. Perfect credit doesn't get you anything except more opportunities to borrow money. And borrowing money isn't the path to wealth. Keeping money is. Cancel the credit cards with annual fees if you're not getting more value than the fee costs. Stop manufacturing spending to hit bonus categories. Stop doing credit card churning unless the math actually works out in your favor. Most of the time, it doesn't. Use debit or cash for most purchases. Yeah, you'll spend less. That's the point. The 18% reduction in spending is worth way more than the 2% cash back you're getting. Take all the time you used to spend optimizing credit scores and spend it learning about investing instead. That knowledge will make you way more money than credit card points ever will. And most importantly, remember this. Credit score measures your relationship with debt. Net worth measures your relationship with wealth. One of these matters for your future. The other one just makes banks money. Stop chasing a score that measures how good you are at borrowing. Start building wealth that measures how good you are at keeping. That's the real game. And now you know how to play it. Hit subscribe if you're ready to focus on the numbers that actually build wealth.